Hi everyone, it's Vela from Online Combat Battalion with another Arma 3 tutorial for you. This one's in response to someone that's asked a question about the mods that I use in-game for my missions, and so I'll cover off on a few of those as well as a few features of Arma itself that you may not be aware of if you're new to the game or new to the editor. So the first one is something that's already built into the editor, and it's just called the Splendid Camera. So if you're into taking lots of cool screenshots and you have been using Gcam or something similar, which I'll cover in another video, you can actually just press escape and go down to camera, and now you can right click with your mouse on the screen, move the camera around and use your WASD keys to move around. And if you press the backspace key on your keyboard, it takes away all the stuff that comes up on the screen when you first open the camera. In single player, it pauses whatever your unit you're looking at. So it will pause everything, and you can move the camera around to wherever you like and take all your cool screenshots. So that's one that's built into the game, and you just have to get out of it, you press escape again and close Splendid Camera, which is just down the bottom here, and you're back into the mission. So that's a nice simple one. The next one I'm going to show you is a mod off the workshop called CHViewDistance. Now, depending on the hardware you have running your game, you may find in some missions that the view distance is a little bit high, and that causes your game to lag a little bit. Alternatively, if you've got a machine that's fairly powerful and you want more of a view distance, then you can use this mod to do it. To access it once it's loaded, you just press Control backspace, and then you'll get this dialog come up where you can change all the settings of your in-foot or on-foot view, in-car, in-air view. So just to give you an example, I'm just going to slide the view here, and you'll see in the background the view distance that I have is dramatically increasing, and I've set that up to 12,000 meters, and I can now see the mountains out there, whereas I couldn't see them before. So again, Control and backslash. I'm going to change the object view. Now if you have a look on the mountains, you won't be able to see any detail. But if I go to Control backspace or backslash, sorry, and change the object view distance and put that up to 12,000 as well, now when I look out at the mountains, I can actually see all of the trees and all of the details of the rocks and other items that are on the mountains. It's not unlimited. It won't give you an unlimited view, but it will certainly increase your view. But again, depending on the machine you're running and depending on the map and how much stuff there's actually on the map, you may need to set these down. I have my view distance normally set to about 5,000 meters and my object distance at about 2,000, and that seems to work out pretty well. You probably can't see it, but I do have an FPS counter up in the top left hand corner of the screen, and at the moment I've got 148 FPS. It's dropped to 128, 117, 98, 101, but still for Arma, anything over about 50 is outstanding. So that's one way you can mess around with your frame rate settings and your view distance settings. The next one you'll see down the bottom of my screen is the DUI Squad Radar. Now this is a successor to the radar that you used to be able to use from a particular author and community, but this one is much improved, and with this, if you go into escape and options and then to add-on options, you have a whole heap of things here that you can do to configure the squad radar. So indicators, main, name tags, radar, and there's a whole heap of settings in here that you can play around with to configure your radar. You can show squad leader, buddy icon, medic icons. Next one is main, which is all your colors. You can configure all of the colors, as well as the font that's displayed in the radar. All sorts of stuff. Name tags. You can set the rank style, again, font, color, all types of stuff. So that's a good one if you're playing multiplayer missions, or even single player, but mostly multiplayer. And in the radar down the bottom of the screen, you will be able to see where your squad mates are within a certain range, which you can also configure the range in the settings. The next one I'll show you, and I've covered this briefly in a video before. I'll just get to a spot where I can actually show you how it works. So this one's called Enhanced Movement. Now, you'd all be used to the standard control for vaulting over things, which basically gets your character to step over things. But if you want to climb on top of an obstacle, that's not much good to you. Whereas with Enhanced Movement, you can get up on top of things, climb over walls. Oh, that hurt. Climb up on top of HESCO barriers. You can also do this with low-lying fences as well. He'll vault over them. I'll see if I can find a spot to show you that. So these are low-lying fences, and you simply just vault over them. So that's enhanced movement. The instructions for configuration are within the mod page on the Steam Workshop, which will be linked in the description below. But I believe you bind a special key, custom key number 1, I think, and then you just have to press that key, and you will then be able to get up on top of and over a lot more things than you could before. The next one, and if you're any part of a Arma community that plays multiplayer missions, you may be familiar with this one. And this is Task Force Arrowhead Radio, the beta version. The original Task Force Radio, the development stopped on that a little while ago, so another community has picked that up, and they're now working to keep that updated. And all it simply is a military radio communication system, and it works with a TeamSpeak server. So to use the radio, you simply just need to, if you're using a short range radio, you just press the caps key, then you're transmitting via the game and via TeamSpeak, and everyone else in the same channel on the same radio frequency will be able to hear you as though you were on an actual military radio. To bring up the radio to change frequencies, you press Control P, and you can then change the frequency to whatever you like on your keyboard. Hit Enter, and now your frequency's been changed, and there's a fairly decent user guide available on the page for the mod on the workshop, so have a look at that. Not only do you have these short range radios, which have a range of about 1.5 kilometers, but in the arsenal you've also got a range of long range backpack type radios, which you can also open up and configure and change channels and frequencies, that sort of stuff. And to use the long range radio, you press Control and caps lock together, and that broadcasts a much greater distance than the short range radio. Again, the description will be in the, or the link will be in the description, sorry, and there's some good user guides out there for using Task Force Arrowhead Radio. Just have a look at those. There's probably some links on the workshop page. Next one on the list is something called Spider Addons, which again will be linked in the description, and it's a series of modules. So in Systems, Modules, go down to Spider Addons. And the one I'm going to show you tonight, which is the one I use mostly, is the Loadout Manager. And all you've got to do is place it on the map, right click and sync it to an ammo box. Okay, and it adds a lot more features than just the arsenal on its own. I'll show you how that works. So when you approach the ammo box, instead of getting normal arsenal, you've also got the option to open the Loadout Manager. What this will enable you to do is not only access the arsenal by pressing that button, but once you've gone into the arsenal and you've selected your gear, which will be displayed here, you can then save the loadout after you've put a name in the box down the bottom here. So you can put a name of whatever loadout you want, and I'll just put AU Desert, save loadout, and click on Load on Respawn. And every time you get taken out and you respawn, you will spawn with the arsenal you've just selected. You can also export your loadout to other players, rename it, reset all data. Basically, there's a bunch of stuff that you can play with, but I normally just access the arsenal, grab the gear I want, enter a name here, and then save the loadout and load on respawn, and that saves your loadout. And when you play another mission that also has spider add-ons in it, it will have all of your saved loadouts here. So it won't disappear when you play another mission on another map, provided that also has spider add-ons loaded. All your loadouts will be saved there. Next one I'll show you is a mod called Achilles, and it works with Zeus. So to use this, we go to Systems F5, Zeus, Game Master. We place it down there, double left click, and we can set an owner's variable name in here. And I'm just going to do what I normally do and use S1. Alternatively, you can type hash admin logged, so any admin logged into the server will have access to Zeus. And I always select all add-ons, including unofficial ones, just in case there's any add-on you're using that Arma doesn't like. It'll work okay. Now once you've placed that down and you are running the Achilles mod from the launcher, it will work, and I'll show you how it works. So once you're in the mission, if you have your Zeus module down and you have Achilles running, when you go into Zeus, you'll have a lot more options than you previously did. Oh, and I'll show you a couple of those. Obviously, you can place down all sorts of units for any faction. You can place markers on the map, which you can actually do in the 3D editor, and they will appear on players' maps. You can actually also just hover over them and press delete if you want to remove them. One of the things you can do is place objectives. So I'm just going to place an attack defend objective, and the attacker's blue 4, the defender's op 4. And there we have a task assigned to capture that area. And by default it switches to the defending side's possession initially. Now if there was defenders in there, say for example a compound or a building, you'd need to fight those guys and take them out before your team captured the objective. And then once you're in the zone, it will slowly start to change possession from op 4 to blue 4. And you'll get a notification that the area has been captured. Now you'll note on the area on the map the area marker is still there. So if we were to leave and op 4 was to come back into the area, it would switch back into their possession. Another very cool thing you can do is you can have a neutralized task. So if you've got a high value target you want to place down for a objective, you could place some enemy AI around him or some obstacles or whatever. But let's place one insurgent down. I'll just pop him there. I go to objectives in modules and neutralize, and drop the neutralize module directly on the bad guy. You then get the side you can assign the task to. You can assign it to a group, or you can assign it to one player, and we'll just leave it at side for the moment. You can put the a title in there and a description if you like, and press OK. It will then bring up a neutralize task. And as I said, if you're using Zeus for your mission, you'd probably put a bit more around rather than just the guy himself. And once I take this guy out, the task will complete. I'll go back into Zeus, and there's quite a bit more stuff that you can do in here. You can skip time, you can change the weather, you can do all sorts of fire support, all sorts of other objectives. You can place objects, you can change the sides of factions from one to the other. It has a teleporter, so you can teleport from one location to another. I'll show you how that works. Mode, player, me, and I've now been teleported over here. So there's a whole heap of stuff that you can do in there, and I'll let you figure that out. I also do have a video on using Zeus with Achilles, so I'll link that down in the description so you can have a look at that at your leisure. Next one I'm going to cover off on is actually a few that are sort of combined and working together. So first one is called ArmaFXP, and it adds blast, smoke and fire and spark effects to your game. I'm also running that with Blastcore Murr edition, and these will be linked in the description below. I also have running JSRS Sound Mod, DynaSound 2 and Enhanced Soundscape. So all those basically play with your visual aspects as well as the sounds. Now we should all be familiar with the standard sounds in Arma for your weapons, which are not great, but in this you'll hear it's quite different, and each weapon has a different sound. And you'll also notice that you get a lot more smoke and a lot more effects, visual effects where your rounds are hitting. Even to the extent where if you're firing on grass, and if you're firing at a building, you'll get sparks off metal. And to really demonstrate the difference, particularly with ArmaFXP and Blastcore, the rounds impacting from a HE cannon. This is a 20 mil Bushmaster gun. You'll see the explosions, they have some sparks as well as the smoke, which is quite different to your standard Arma, because it actually shows you a shrapnel pattern around the explosion. And this is most noticeable at night with the spark effects. You'll also get the smoke effects, but they won't be as visible. Now mine appear as little strange shaped little boxes, and that's because of some of my in-game settings. You'll also notice that the flash from the muzzle of the flex gun is quite a bit more different. pronounced, as well as the tracing effects. And also firing with the main gun. Not only can you see the blast happen in the distance where the rounds are impacting, but you'll notice the flash around the vehicle and around the muzzle, as well as the sparks, are quite more pronounced than they would be in standard Arma. And I've got some mortars firing to my front, and you can see the blast from those, as well as the black smoke and the sparks is quite more pronounced than it is in standard Arma. You hear those additional sound effects which come from JSRS. And these are 155mm rounds. And the blast from those is pretty impressive. So now I've just called a A10 CAS gun run to my front, just to show you what the tracer or the rounds from the what they look like. So a lot more blast effects from those mods. So that'll do for this video, people. All the links will be in the description below, so grab those and have a look at those. I'd recommend you not use any of those if you're editing a mission, because if you're using some client-side mods like JSRS Sound Mod and you use that in the editor, even though it's a client-side mod, it will attach itself to the mission file, and everyone else playing the mission will also be required to have that mission, and some people may not use it. Just something for you to be aware of. If you have any questions, throw them in the comments section below, or you can visit our Discord. That link will be in the description below also. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for your support. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.